Does the multiscale metal movement go back as far as the 1500s? We're gonna lay it out. Stick around. Let's get nerdy. According to multiscale.info, the Bandora shows up around 1560 or so, and it is a large lute-looking instrument. A smaller version of the Bandora is called the Orpherion or Orpherion. That's popular in the 1600s. Now, it's not until the 1900s that patents start showing up for different scale lengths within 6 strings on classical instruments. By 1977, we see a production guitar called the Starboard. That's one of the very first ones within the 20th century, at least, to get produced with frets that aren't parallel. By 1989, Ralph Novak has developed the fan fret. That's truly non-parallel frets that have a different scale length on the low string versus a different scale length on the high string. So if you guys dig multiscale, right on. In order to lay out multiscale, we need the same set of tools that we used in the last video for fretboard layout. A pencil, a yardstick, some drafting paper, some tape, a protractor, some dividers or a compass, and dial calipers. Here are my drafting paper. I've used my yardstick and I have a center line. Since we're dealing with 2 different scale lengths, a common misconception is that I can just draw a parallel line out this way and a parallel line out this way. I can draw whatever my low side scale length is going to be here and my high side scale length and then connect them. That's partially true, but what we have to take into consideration is string spacing at the nut and string spacing at the final fret. We're going to go ahead and do this one as probably a 24 fret, and also we got to take into account what fret is going to end up being perpendicular to our center line. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and lay out as our 12th fret being perpendicular to our center line. The scale lengths I'm going to do here are, I'm going to do a 6-string guitar, but the scale lengths I'm going to do are 27 at the low side and 25.5 on the high side. Somewhere here on my line, I am going to mark just a quick little tick mark. I'm going to use my protractor to make, I'm doing my best to try to keep my giant cranium out of the way, a perpendicular line. That is my 12th fret for both scale lengths. In order to get this to feel correct, I'm going to start on my low side. If I'm going to do 27 on the low side, that means that my 12th fret should be 13.5. I'm going to mark a line up here at my nut position at 13.5. Using StewMac's fret calculator, I'm going to go in and figure out what the distance between the nut and the final fret for a 27-inch scale would be. That's going to be 20.25. Since I'm just doing a 6-string guitar, I want my nut to be pretty standard width, so it's going to end up being 1.688. And I'm going to do 2.25 down here at my final fret. Right now, it just looks like a 27 scale length fretboard laid out. Nut position, 12th fret, final fret. I'm going to go ahead and lay out the string paths for the low string and for the high string. For sake of ease, I'm just going to come in 0.125 here and 0.125 here. If I was going to do some, double drop Q tuning or something like that, I would probably want to figure out what my string gauges were going to be. But for the sake of this exercise, I just want to be able to show where the string paths are going to land. I'm coming in 0.140 at both sides here. To truly lay this out, you will need to know what the string spacing will be on your bridge. Now we are ready to start laying out our fret positions. Since we have our string paths, we've got our nut width on the longest scale, and we've got our final fret width at the longest scale because this is where the neck's going to meet the body. We can come back using StewMac's fret calculator. We can use the method with our dividers. We can use the method of just measuring with the dial caliper. I don't care how you get here. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and lay out 27 scale on the low string. Now, I'm going to lay out 25.5. This is my 12th fret. So I'm going to go back this way to the nut and then forward this way to the 24th fret. This is where you're going to see the scale length be considerably shorter. Okay, 25.5 on this string path. That means the nut position is here. Nut position for 27's there. In order to get all of these to connect, now I just have to connect dots. I can use my 6-inch rule to do that. Have a look at that. So here our nut position looks a good bit different than it did initially, but this will still keep our string spacing correct. If you wanted to do a 7 or 8 or 9, typical string spacing in between each string is around 0.3 or so. That's give or take a few thou. The idea here is to make sure that the string spacing doesn't feel too cramped here or too wide. That's why I start with the longest string scale. This will also tell me where I need to put my bridge saddles down here in order to be able to intonate all of these strings. In this drawing, we used the 12th fret as our perpendicular fret to our center line. But if I wanted, say, the 5th fret to be my perpendicular fret, I would then need to know all of those fret positions. So what's the distance between the 5th fret and the nut, and the 5th fret and the last fret? Same thing for the 25.5, the distance between the 5th fret and the nut, and the distance between the 5th fret and the last fret. Once you did that, then you can lay out all of those positions on your string paths. That will give you all the tick marks you need to lay out all the fret lines. So that's multiscale. So you guys tell me, comment down in the, down there. Is it for you? Or are parallel frets good enough? For me, I'm still not bright enough to be able to play parallel frets, much less think about that. That's just for me. As far as constructing one of these by hand, without the aid of a CNC, it's not that it's difficult, but it's definitely time consuming and a bit fiddly. But if you really want to do this, don't let that stop you. I'm currently in the process of putting together a series or a course rather, on how to make an instrument from start to finish. If you guys would be into that, again, please let me know down in the comment section. Let me know what you would like to see included in that. Next week, I want to take a bit of a left turn. We haven't talked any about paint. I want to talk about, a few different types of paint systems that are out there. I'd like to demystify a few, if you will. Until next week, as always, don't do anything weird. Don't tell anyone.